You know, my favorite expression of the poem, I think I shall never see anything as lovely as a tree. And I believe that. And I also believe, I love the saying that he who plants a tree believes in tomorrow. You have to be patient. It's God's gift, are trees, in so many different ways. I had a relationship with a young lady who had a very young son. He was about 2.5, 3 years old at that time. We'd always say, we're going to the farm, going to the farm, going to the farm. And one day he did a little cartoon drawing, Crayolas, and he had the farm, P-H-A-R-M-E. And that's how it all started.
We started off easy though, number one.
Yes, I love coffee. Is it okay to have this? Nathan Wilson, AKA NJ, or Mr. Wilson. My role is to do whatever I can to keep it going, and then whatever I can't get done is to find somebody to do it, you know? So, just a manager kind of thing.
NJ is a unique character. I ran into NJ, he was about the second or third person that I ran into that wanted to do the work, and he started working here, and 90 to 120 days later, we realized that there was a lot more work to do, And
so I had an ad in the paper, and he called me, you know, from that ad, and we met one Saturday up in Wills Point at the tennis courts, and he said, follow me, and it was all I could do to keep up with him.
He's done just a phenomenal job. As I've told him many times and other people, I would not have this farm if it was not for N.J. Wilson.
Go ahead, go inside, go inside.
I think in my mind what this farm represents is an absolute monument to my father and his legacy. It is a piece of dirt in the middle of East Texas that he bought and handcrafted, hand-sculpted over the course of 25 years into a really remarkable place. He didn't spend a lot of money having other people do it for him. He did it, him and NJ.
And I always wanted to have something in the country, and prior to that had bought 2 or 3 things and had just never had the time or the money to improve it the way I wanted it improved, just to come out to have a place to go. I wanted it to be close enough to Dallas where we would use it, which kept it inside an hour and a half, and it took us, and us being myself and my golden retriever at the time named Bixby. Bixby and I would get in the car every Saturday morning in the early 90s, and we would drive East Texas. Everywhere we go, we'd look at anything that might be available for sale, or things that we liked that even were for sale. We'd stop and ask if they were for sale. And after about 2 years, when the ladies who knew what I was looking for called me this place, she said, I've got 100 acres that you're gonna like. It was a good price. Anyway, we did it, we built the house. I was originally gonna build an A-frame, 1,100 feet, 1-bath A-frame, turned into a 2-bath A-frame, turned into a 4.5-bath house. It took that long. The more I got into it, business got better and I thought I could afford it, so we then built the house.
It was about 1.5 years I was gone, and that's when the house burned. Robert letting me come back to work here was a gift from God. That was God's grace. I didn't deserve to come back, but he let me come back, and you know, that meant a lot to me.
I was at home in Dallas, getting ready to come here on a Friday afternoon, Friday evening. Hadn't left my house there yet, and I got a phone call from my neighbor who said he thought that he saw fire over here. And apparently what had happened was that we got a direct hit by lightning into the circuit box into the house, which pushed it out into virtually any electrical outlet in the house. So there were 16 different fires that started simultaneously.
But that's how we started communicating again, because my ex-wife had told me that the house burned. She heard the house burning. So I called him, you know, and that's when he said, yeah, and we talked, you know, and anyway, we ended up meeting a few months later. But yeah, it was terrible. I know it. He was devastated by it, so.
Suddenly, my dad's wonderful farm that he put so much work and love into had burned essentially to the ground. But I know he's told me the story a lot where he came back to the farm while it was burning, and he and his dog Lily sat there and watched it happen.
So I jumped in the car, and by the time I got here, it was all over. The volunteer fire department said they got the alarm, but when they tried to call to confirm the alarm, the line was busy, so they didn't come. It wouldn't have done any good because they're 20 minutes away. By the time they got here, there wouldn't have been anything left anyway. But we rebuilt, had a lot of fun rebuilding, and in subsequent years, that would have been 2002, so what, almost 19 years ago, the house has been well used, the farm has been well used. Corningware. This survived. You can see how hot it got. And that's not supposed to happen. See this? How the fire got it? And this was underneath of what was the kitchen island. Fork. Okay, spoons. See them? This was a collection of bronzeware that I brought home. This rocking horse was a gift from my very best friend, Darrell Hermes. And it was painted black, but the paint was all seared off of it. And in here, Robert Jr. made his mother a plate for her birthday. And you can see that it is, and there was all kinds of painting on it. That all got burned up, but that stayed. The weekend before the fire, some very close personal friends of mine came to visit, and they stayed here, and they brought me a gift from an old store. You probably don't know it, but it was called Smith & Hawken. It was a floral garden type shop, and they brought me a pitchfork and a shovel. And the only thing that survived the fire was the metal, not even the handle, but the pitchfork and the shovel part of the shovel survived the fire. So I took it and I had it refitted and hung it there. Ralph, you're not a horse. Dogs, I found out many, many years ago, will do one thing for you: they'll make you laugh. And my life has been somewhat tenuous, and by nature of the business I'm in, which is somewhat stressful business, and the dogs have always made me laugh, and I've always loved them dearly. Yes, you. I'm talking about you. No, I'm talking about you, don't you? This is our pet graveyard. We have 13 dogs, and we buried one cat just to piss off the dogs. We've had the greatest farm dogs ever. Just the most wonderful animals. That's George. They were best buds. Absolutely best buds. Every dog has its redeeming factors. The two city dogs, of course, I spend so much time with. They both make me laugh. They're both comedians, and that's the neatest thing. Over here, these two buildings that you're seeing on the left, the old buildings, was the lady that I bought this from. Her family had been on here about 90 years. And we're in the process now of rebuilding. We did stabilize them, but we need to get them up and running. Not actually up and running, but more stable, get them running better. Interestingly enough, all the way across the holly over there, that tall, shorter green bunch underneath the trees, that was a Yopine holly that I transplanted when my mother moved into a senior community about 27 years ago. And just had no other place to put it, so I just stuck it in the ground. And it's done incredibly well. So my mother does have a presence here. Back to Mrs. Wilson's family that owned this place. They would fill this up every spring, and this would be their water supply during the summertime. But anyway, it collects runoff, and they use that water all summer, and that would be what they drink and eat and wash and do everything else, although washing was never a priority. No, they are not fire ants. They're army ants. They'll eat fire ants. They're really good things to have around. You'll notice you see no fire ant beds in this area because of these ants. First cemetery, or first marker in here is about 1824, 25. The latest one's about 1923, 24, 25. It's the Robidoux family, old family here, and these are all family members or connected in some way to the family. And anyway, we've taken it upon ourselves to clean it all up and maintain it. We use this for Halloween. We'd come up here and we'd take the kids up and we'd decorate it and put a generator up here and put the lights on it and scare the dickens out of the kids with people coming out of the woods. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
A lot of his friends from Dallas would come out, and some of them never experienced the country, you know. So he had great joy in loading them up on buggies, riding around at night with spotlights, catching bullfrogs, you know, shooting skunks, whatever. And, you know, watching his friends and Robert and myself grab these big old giant bullfrogs, you know, and the looks on their faces was just, you know, that's a good memory.
Truck, nicknamed Wally, was bought by my uncle in 1963, brand new. It is absolutely the most basic of all pickup trucks. It is a Chevy 10, 1963, long bed, and they used it on their farm up at Little Elm, but my uncle died in 1974, and they put it in a outbuilding, a shed that they had there. She parked it in there, and it sat there unused for 10 years, unused totally. I go in there, I find it, and I put a battery on it, put gas in it, put oil in it, cranked it up and drove it back to Dallas. The minute I drive into that gate, I can just feel the stress go. And to be able to drive in that gate and watch it close behind me and have 90% of that stress be left outside that gate is critical, and it does. And again, Mr. Wilson has made that possible. Without him, it would not have happened. I mean, I irritate him constantly with how picky I am, but he knows that, and he takes care of it, and he just does an amazing job, and he's so sensitive to it. Plus, I forced him to have dinner with me every other Saturday night, and we'd talk, we'd have fun. He's an amazing young man.
The farm to me is more than a job. It's been my life just for a long time, you know. I enjoy getting up and coming over here and doing what I do. My goal, and it doesn't always work out, is to bring peace and relaxation to Robert when he shows up.
He's always the proudest when all of his family is here, or even just me or just Robert. He loves when he's able to host people and they all enjoy his flowers and his trees the way he does, because he puts a lot of pride in that.
This house and this property are a memento to his life in many ways. Not from the medals that he achieved in the Vietnam War to the cuttings from plants that were in his mother's yard. He's not an outwardly sentimental man, he's a stoic man, but you can see the sentimentality in quiet ways weaved throughout the home and the property. And if you pay attention and you listen, you'll catch that without him exactly saying it.
The journey is far, far more fun than the arrival. Nothing happened overnight. This farm did not happen overnight. The best investments I had have been very long term. Keep working, build for the future, be conservative in your approach, and you can be successful in virtually anything you want to do, but you have to have patience. The happiness in life is being able to deal with it peacefully. And come in the fence and close the gate.